resolution of both houses and the governor to pass an extraction tax on the Marcellus shale drilling by October 1st. That's where this is contained. And I came here today because 25% of the Marcellus shale wells that have been drilled so far in Pennsylvania have been drilled right here in Bradford County. No county has seen the upside and no county has seen the downside more than you have. And this is the appropriate place for me to come and talk about what I expect the legislature to do as it looks at imposing this tax. And let me stop parenthetically to thank Representative Tina Pickett for coming and appearing with us. As you know, Tina is a Republican and I happen to be a Democrat, but she works well with us on economic development issues. And I know this is an issue that is of deep concern to her, and she wants to get it right. She's here to make sure that we strike the proper balance, and Tina, so am I. Nearly 1,200 natural gas wells have been drilled in Pennsylvania so far in 2010, including 564 Marcellus shale wells. And as I said, 25% of those wells have been drilled right here in Bradford County. The rich natural gas deposits in the shale represent a tremendous opportunity in the form of new jobs and new investments for the Commonwealth. In the last 3 years, over 3,000 mining jobs have been added to our statewide total of employment. We've also seen positive results in Bradford County. Today, there are 1,300 more jobs in Bradford County in mining and other parts of the economy than there were a year ago. The burgeoning natural gas industry is also creating a lot of new responsibilities and a lot of headaches for our local community. You've already heard from PennDOT Director Tosca, and you've heard her talk about the effects that heavy traffic are having on our roads and bridges. You've heard from your very fine commissioner, Commissioner Smith, who's been a true leader on the Marcellus shale issue, testified on behalf of your county and on behalf of the County Commissioners Association before both House and Senate committees looking into this. And you've heard what Sandra has said, you've heard what Mark has said about what is happening from shale drilling, what the downsides are. And we can't ignore the downsides. We have to strike the proper balance. One of the downsides that Mark didn't talk about in his brief remarks, but has talked about in the past, is what dangers drilling possesses and contains for the environment itself. As you know, by all means applaud that because it's something that we've got to protect. And you know we've had significant incidents already. Fortunately, no major destructive incident, but significant incidents that have challenged the environment from shale drilling. In Towanda County, a spill of drilling wastewater required a cleanup of over 164 tons of contaminated soil in our agricultural areas. On July 1st, the Department of Agriculture announced that it had quarantined 28 cattle in Tioga County that had come in contact with and possibly consumed contaminated wastewater from drilling operations. The water contained dangerous chemicals and metals, and it was the opinion of the Department of Agriculture that had the cattle consume that, they could have posed a health risk to humans. Last month, as most of you are aware, a well blowout in Clearfield County sent natural gas and flowback fracturing fluid onto the ground and 75 feet into the air for more than 16 hours, creating environmental and safety concerns that demanded effective response activities by local emergency responders and by the Department of Environmental Protection. And I think everyone in this courthouse has heard or read about the incidents in Dimmock Township. Last summer, the Department of Environmental Protection received a report that 6,000 gallons of fracked gel had been spilled on the ground. DEP determined that an O-ring in a joint in the supply pipe to the drill pad had malfunctioned. The water flowed into a perimeter ditch and through a wetland, eventually reaching an adjacent stream. Earlier in that same day, there was a similar spill of up to 1,000 to 1,500 gallons. DEP subsequently determined that poorly constructed natural gas wells caused that gas to migrate and contaminate the water supply for 14 homes alone. So it's obvious we need to ensure the resources are available to inspect, monitor, and enforce against companies that don't meet environmental standards. And there is some good news to report. Just 10 days ago, the Regulatory Commission in Harrisburg approved a regulation on TDS, on what solids can be put into the frack water, what it has to contain before it can be put back into the supply itself. We are also proceeding with construction regulations that will be approved in October, so that we make sure that the wells are constructed in a way to avoid such incidents that occurred in Clearfield and Dimmock Township as well. In February, in my budget address, I proposed the Pennsylvania enact a severance tax modeled after West Virginia's levy. West Virginia assesses a straight 5% fee on sales, plus an additional 4.7 cents for each 1,000 cubic feet of gas produced. The industry, or at least some parts of the industry, would have you believe that exploration and drilling activity will cease and the Commonwealth will crumble if we adopt the same taxes they did in West Virginia. That is, ladies and gentlemen, simply not a credible assertion. West Virginia imposed a severance tax in 2006, and in 2007, the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection issued 147 permits for Marcellus wells. Did imposing a severance tax have a chilling effect on drilling activity like the industry warned in West Virginia? No, and in fact the number of permits more than doubled to 387 in 2008 and nearly 400 permits so far this year. So the industry is warning that if you enact a tax like West Virginia, which will give us a great deal of resources for local and state government, that's going to be a disincentive for drilling. That has proved to be totally false in West Virginia. And Tina, you'll be glad to hear that no less a person than Alaska Governor Sarah Palin knew what she was doing back in October of 2007 when she increased Alaska's severance tax from 22.5% to 25% of the taxable income derived from oil and gas production. So no less a conservative, and certainly one of the leaders of the national conservative movement, as Governor Palin, increased the severance tax to get the maximum amount of dollars to protect local communities and to protect the environmental issues as well. Industry is clamoring for the right to explore in Pennsylvania. Industry operates in Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma, but we've gotten interest from giants, not only companies in those three states, but two of the biggest giants in the industry, in the energy industry in the world. Royal Dutch Shell, which just paid $4.7 billion to buy a Pennsylvania shale company, and none other than ExxonMobil, the most successful company in the history of the world, that last year reported profits of $42.5 billion. That's not revenue. That's profits of $42.5 billion, and somehow managed to avoid paying any federal taxes to the IRS. Well, ExxonMobil just concluded a $41 billion deal to purchase shale interests here in Pennsylvania. So it doesn't seem like this industry is slowing down. The Marcellus Shale is under 2/3 of the land in Pennsylvania. We are the biggest state in the union for acreage that contains Marcellus Shale underneath it. There's no way that industry is going to stop with a reasonable severance tax. There's no way that that's going to be a disincentive. We've seen what's happened to pricing. Companies that were offering $25 for an acre of land 4 or 5 years ago are now paying $14,000 for an acre. So, I don't think we have to worry about enacting a reasonable shale tax. I don't think we have to worry about killing the golden goose. I don't think we have to worry about diminishing the economic benefits. I think we can do it both. We can reap all of the economic benefits and at the same time protect our environment, protect our local communities, protect our way of life, protect our transportation network. That's the task before us, and that's what the legislature has to decide between now and October 1st. But let me just say one thing, because I've heard a lot of talk already. And Tina, I'm sad to say, a lot of talk out of your caucus and the Senate Republican caucus about exempting companies for the first 3 years of well production. That is, folks, a lousy idea, and I am against it. And are you against it? I think it's important that Representative Pickett hear that. Are you against it?
We're against it.